This, I think, is a photo from a Motorola television campaign from the 1960s. I love these kind of photos of the future, just kind of guessing about what our front rooms will be like kind of years hence. I think they must have predicted global warming and climate change because there appears to be a boy swimming outside the window. But, this is another one. This is a book I had when I was a kid. It was a prediction of what the living room would be like, I think, in 1989 or something. They kind of say that in 1990, electronic mail will have replaced postal mail. Oh, yeah, good. It's slot number 6 over there. But they have this idea that what you do is you write your post down on a piece of paper and you hold it up to the camera and it scans it. And it sends it up to a satellite and it comes back down and prints it out. So almost there. Almost there, but not quite. I'm Matt Webb. I'm kind of obsessed with these kind of pictures. Pictures of the future, science fiction. Mainly, they come from. This is 2001, same kind of idea. It's video calling. Hayward Floyd is phoning his daughter from a space station on the way to the moon to wish her happy birthday. And it's uncannily accurate, you know. This was actually the first science fiction I was exposed to when I was about 6. I saw my dad watching it on television and just joined in. And it's about this computer called HAL. Big thinking, talking computer, what we call an artificial intelligence, AI. And this is from the scene where Hal, having done some very bad things, kills loads of people. Having done some bad things, he's being disconnected. And as he dies, he reads this piece of poetry. And it's completely heartbreaking, even though Hal isn't alive. So out of this, I kind of end up with a kind of a childhood obsession with wanting to have a computer friend that talks to me. And the future and science fiction. Incidentally, this is the scene I remember watching with my dad when I was 6. And I don't know how many people here are from the UK, like most people. Yeah, a bunch. He told me that one of the apes was played by Ronnie Corbett. And I didn't find out he was lying until I was 20. Bitter. This is another film I liked when I was growing up, called War Games, which has also a talking computer in it. Greetings, Professor Falcon, all that. And I assumed it was that I loved it. It turned out I went back and watched it. It was my 10-year-old self had a massive crush on Ali Sheedy. It was nothing to do with computers at all. So there we go. More sci-fi. More sci-fi. This is a book I really loved when I was about 14. It's called Man After Man, and it's like I'm showing pictures of my holidays. This is brilliant. It's not a slideshow. This is what mankind will turn into in the kind of future of genetic manipulation and evolution, and it's where mankind is bifurcated, and there's these really tiny ones down here, who most people can't see, who kind of ride around on horses, and they're the clever ones. And there are really big ones who are like pack animals, but they're so big they have to be solar powered. So they've replaced their heads with big solar panels. And this idea was actually stolen from a book by Olaf Stapleton called Last and First Men, which tells the story of the future history of mankind. And mankind sort of, well, it's miserable actually, because he kind of rises up in these massive civilizations and then has a nuclear war, or there's just like environmental apocalypse. And each time man kind of comes back, you know, with wings or with telepathy or on Venus, you know, in different ways, and then gets destroyed again, and that's sad. And so it's a bit of a bleak book, but it goes on for 2 billion years. And they end up on Neptune. And this is the 14th species of man 2 billion years in the future. And by that point, mankind has 6 legs. And like there's like 93 sexes, and they have like an extra eye on the top of their heads, which means that by grouping together in kind of planet-wide telepathy, they make a massive telescope to look at the universe, which is just, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. But that wasn't Olaf's only book. He wrote another book called The Star Maker. And in The Star Maker, the history of mankind is just a footnote. It's just a single footnote. This entire 2 billion years is just the 0 on this graph from the beginning of the universe, right till when the last galaxy dies. Puts it in really massive context. And in this book, he introduces what is maybe my favorite idea in all of science fiction, which is of thinking nebula. So nebula. A nebula is like a big cloud in space where stars form like hailstones. This picture in the background is the Orion Nebula. It's a bit too faint to see with the naked eye, but if you could see it, I think it's about 4 times the width of the moon, and the width of the moon is like your thumb at arm's distance. So it's like 4 fingers just in the sky. So it's big. And he has this wonderful way of describing the nebula at the beginning of the universe, because he says they think. And he says these amoeboid titans, they began to wake up into a vague unity of experience. And he says they exchange messages with each other by fluctuations of gravity, which take thousands of years to reach other nebula, and thousands of years to come back. The whole cosmos reverberated with their talk, and eventually these nebula, they fall in love. They seem to themselves have scarcely found one another before they must be parted. His story ends with these nebula gradually turning into funny kinds of grit as they turn into stars, which are us, and they never speak again. And that was like the one hope the universe had for like universal love, and then it just kind of goes into us. And he wrote this in 1937. Like, what? Fantastic. There's the sentient nebula thing comes up another time in a book from the 1970s called The Embedding by Ian Watson, where he talks about whales that swim through space. And when the whales die, they tow their dying individuals towards a stellar contraction pool where the dead bodies may be finally compacted into a star and reborn as light. Whales swimming through space that are buried, and in their burial, they ignite and turn into stars. I mean, it just makes kind of like a beautiful, magical world. It's an idea called panpsychism, I think, because I haven't got my notes, that everything around us is thinking. I kind of love those things. They're slightly magical worlds. There's a similar but smaller thing that happens with some brain injuries called Charles Bonnet syndrome, which is where you see faces in everything. You just see faces in the world around you. I think I might be having it now, actually. So you get hallucinations of extended landscape scenes. You see grotesque faces everywhere around you. In the landscape, grotesque faces. Little people. I think it might be the brain injury which is responsible for the myths of trolls and the little people and that kind of thing. But actually, we all have it in a greater or lesser extent. This is my business partner, Matt Jones, calls it Hello Little Fella. This is an American Express commercial of faces just in the world that surrounds us. And once you start seeing faces in curtains and sinks and hangers, a couple of things happen. One is you start pointing it out to your friends and they'll think you're crazy. The second thing is that the world just becomes a much more beautiful place. There's something about faces where, as humans, optimized for faces, well, we're being social, right? A happy face will jump out of a crowd of glum people much quicker than the number will jump out of a spreadsheet. We're really good at picking out faces. This has been used to great effect in the world of infographics with a technique called Chernoff faces, which is where you take numbers, in this case baseball statistics, and you make them into faces which have things like the size of their eyes represent like the hit percentage, and the width of the face represents like, I don't know, how many wins they've had, and that kind of stuff. And just by looking at the faces, you can see that St. Louis did really well in 2005. You know, it's got this kind of crazy big eyes, big hair kind of thing. Those kind of faces really, really jump out at us, and we can kind of make use of this. So as I said, I'm Matt Webb. I have a design studio called BERG, and one of our projects is called Schooloscope, and we take complex government data and we turn them into schools with smiling faces. And so we just use this same technique. So that school there, the colour of the roof is how well its exam results are. Orange means the exam results are okay. Green would be good, red would be bad. And the smiling face means how happy we think the kids are. Because it's easier to understand than reading 6 or 7 pages of government data. It gives you a kind of a way into this really kind of complex world. So I like faces. This is also what we do. If you go to the website, you can find your school, and you can download a printout and then cut it out and turn it into a little origami model of your school. So that's... actually, while I'm on project, I'm going to just show you. I kind of told you how I was when I was 6. I'll show you what kind of stuff I'm doing now. This is a little puppet that plugs into your computer. It's a bit cheating, this, because it's a prototype we built 4 years ago when the company was called Schultz and Webb, which is its old name. But it's a puppet that plugs in, and it's one of your friends on Instant Messenger. I don't know how many people here use IM, but it's a way of talking to your friends through your computer. And so it is one of your friends, and when they go offline, it falls over. And when they come online, you can guess, I think. Sounds like. But it's just quite nice, you know? And it's a bit like having a photo on your desk, on your desk of like someone, except it's active, and it makes a little bit of noise, and it reminds you that they're there, and that they've given this to you as a gift, so they care about you, and that's nice. So that's kind of what my company's about, so you know what kind of person I am. And I think we're showing a film that we did later this evening, so we'll see about that. But as a designer, like I'm always trying now to track the future. It's kind of what I have to do, which is good, because that's what I wanted to do when I was 6. And one of the things I do is I read the Argos catalogue. I'm obsessed with the Argos catalogue. It's just brilliant. Like, it comes out every 3 months, and it's 1,000 pages of stuff which is highbrow and lowbrow and cheap and expensive. And if you read it, you just get a really good handle about what people are into right now. It's like just mainlining pure culture. So like every 3 months, I like rush to Argos, get the catalogue, and just read all the pages. And just some of my favourite things. This is a home electric tattoo kit for kids. Why is it electric? Why is it not just a pen? I don't know. These are babies getting married. And that's a baby on a scooter with a remote control. Why has it got a remote control? I don't understand. Really walks. It's a horse. This is my absolute favourite thing, which is hamsters that run around. And you won't be able to see it from the back, so let me just point out. You get a habitat that the hamsters can run around in, and if you buy more than one hamster, they interact. And get this, for the 2 things they point out: hilarious sounds, artificially intelligent. I'm 6. Let me just put this into context. HAL, in 2001, they sent to Jupiter in a spaceship. This is £9.99, and you can buy it in Argos. A bit more into perspective, that's $9.99. American dollars, that's like 15 bucks. 60% of that will go to whoever sells at the shop. So you're under 10 bucks now. You can't make one of these things on your own, so it needs to go through Mattel or Hasbro or someone, and you take your cut. So you're down to about $5.60. I think you've got to get it over from China and do the packaging. And you've got to do certification, which is expensive but important because you don't want to poison kids or have them choke on it. But I worked out the maths, and it came down to, in the end, it's got to have a chip in the middle of this hamster, which costs you 7 cents. 7 cents. And in that 7 cents, you've got to pack not only artificial intelligence, but hilarious sounds. How do they do it? So I think I used to be obsessed with artificial intelligence. And what I'm obsessed with now is something called, I'm going to call fractional AI. Because if you put a name on it, you can sell consulting around it. So fractional AI. What is fractional AI? Back in the day, this idea comes from fractional horsepower. So back in the day, horsepower was horses and factories, right? Big factories like Manchester, machines. And in the early 1900s, they invented motors which did less than 1 horsepower, fractional horsepower motors. And when cities in the States got electrified in like 1910, 1915, they started being able to do things with fractional horsepower. Washing machines, like tumble dryers, just like things which took motors, like things which you had to kind of run at home. By the time 1920 came around, there were 500,000 fractional horsepower motors just being appliances, making people's lives better. And that's kind of an interesting sort of thing that happened. A bit of a sidetrack into this kind of world of early electrification. And this is just only because Russell Davis is in the audience over there. And he gave me a book last year, which I absolutely love. It's the Hawkins Electrical Guide. And it's a 10-volume guide about what you can do with electricity. I'm completely in love with this. And the 10th volume is like questions, answers, and illustrations of just new things you can do with electricity. So keep in mind, this is the kind of the fractional AI of 100 years ago. So this was brand new. It was a coffee percolator. It's got a heating plate, and that means you no longer need a servant to make your coffee. It's brilliant. We still have these now. We don't have one of these. This is a medical kit with a sinusoidal electric current and different attachments to put into any hole your body has. They thought they could do anything with electricity. In fact, they made this, which is hemorrhoids. So we'll skip over that. That would be painful. We don't want rectal electrodes. For a century, progress was the domestication of industry, factories into the home. And like cheap oil meant we've had like 30 years of cheap products. Now I reckon that's what used to be. And what we've got coming next is like something a bit different. So I'm just going to show a few examples of that. These are 2 iPhone apps. I've got an iPhone. Like loads of people have iPhones now. They just seem like normal, everyday technology. But these 2 apps just completely blew me away. The one on the right is a thing called Sudoku Grab. You point it at your newspaper and like a picture of a puzzle, and it uses image recognition to make the puzzle from the camera in the phone, and then it uses a neural network, which is like a miniature brain simulation, to recognize the numbers, and then it solves it for you and tells the answer. The thing on the right is a barcode scanner called Red Laser, which is like uncannily accurate. And the reason it's accurate is that when it doesn't work, they take the picture of the barcode and they send it off to a thing that Amazon run called Mechanical Turk. And what Mechanical Turk does is they have like 100,000 people waiting on computers in like Polynesia and the American Midwest, just waiting to do tiny jobs for 4 cents a go. And they figure out what the barcode means instead, and then they send it back to you. So this one has got a brain simulation, and that one's got like all of the American Midwest. Just like what? You're kidding. I don't even know how these things work. It's magic. And not magic because like I don't understand how they work. Because I know how it works because I'm a geek. But what I mean is I don't understand how we live in a society where these kind of things are like actually happening. It's like completely nuts. So I think that future I wanted of like AI is not the big AI of Hal and Joshua, which is the name of the computer out of War Games, the one with Ali Sheedy. It's this kind of thing. It's virtual pets, which are now like a complete commodity. They're just everywhere. Like this is the future of robotics. And this is the future of robotics. This is Andy's house. It's a dude who works at IBM who wired his entire house up to Twitter. So it tells him how much water it used each day and who's phoning him on the telephone, all that kind of stuff. And if you really want robots, then this is the future of robots. It's just a Segway, the webcam on the top. And people use it, they dial into it through their web browser, and it follows people around at work, and you can use it to join meetings. And that's just absurd. Like the idea that this is high-end military industrial technology, and we're using it to stand around a whiteboard. That's brilliant. So what's my message? That cheap as cheap oil made cheap products and cheap computing will make smart products? No, not really that. And is it that like faces are really good ways of getting across complex things? It's a bit of that. It's a bit like this Facebook message where Colin is filled with sadness because today Wanda has started her journey into the great mystery. You will be missed, R.I.P. Is this about your virtual fish? Yes. It's about that. It's about that things, even really tiny things, have like engagement. And there's a power, not as I thought with HAL, but there's a power of fractional stuff, fractional AI, fractional horsepower. And that's my big do. The big thing I'm thinking about is what can I make better by making it smaller and making it nice. And there's a couple of dogs and a mobility scooter. And my little thing is everything I know comes from people making me watch films or people recommending books for me to read. And something I do at conferences sometimes is I get everyone to write down 3 books and we all put up on post-it notes. But maybe this time, could everyone write down 3 books anyway? And then when we have a conversation later, we can all swap them. And that would be very good. So please do that. Thank you very much.